This is the first meeting, as this is the first meeting of the Stormwater Authority for 2025, we have to reorganize. And the first thing that we have to do as part of that process is elect our chair for the upcoming year. Once that person is elected, whoever it shall be, they can then take over and run the rest of the meeting, including nominations for secretary and such. But in my capacity as temporary chair, I will entertain a motion or nominations to elect one of you, either the three present or two who are not present, for the role of chairman of the authority for 2025.
I'll nominate Mike Malawicki.
And I'll second Mr. Malawicki as chair.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I will declare nominations closed. All those in favor of Mike Malawicki as chair of the authority for 25, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And clearly you accept, so I will give this to you.
Thank you. And I'll retire it. Thank you. Okay. It's time to move on and continue with the reorganization.
Number three.
Yep, number three. Now we are to nominate one member as the vice chairperson. I nominate John Lawver.
And I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All in, any other questions, comments? No, not hearing anything? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? None?
A voice from
Okay.
beyond.
Welcome, Pat.
Here's our new
John,
chair.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for serving. Now, we have a motion, our duty is to appoint a secretary. Any nominations?
I'll nominate Charles Strauss for secretary. You don't?
Second?
Is he the current secretary?
I believe
I
so.
believe he
yes,
is.
he is the
And
current
so
secretary.
we're going to continue him as secretary, if he so
Second.
desires, but he's not here, so. And second, thank you. Any questions, comments? None? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Not hearing any. Charles is the secretary. Congratulations, Charles.
Wherever you are.
Wherever you are, yeah. So we have other organizational matters. We have a list from A to G.
You can take them all at once if you
Yeah, I think we're going to do that. We're going to take them all at once. And we have, should I read them, Solicitor, or can everybody go down the list and?
I would read them.
Okay, here we go. I will read them. A motion to appoint Adam Boyer as a Gettysburg Borough Stormwater Authority Solicitor. That was A. B, a motion to appoint C.S. Davidson as Gettysburg Borough Stormwater Authority Engineers. B, that was B. C, a motion to appoint Charles R. Gable as Gettysburg Borough Stormwater Authority Administrative Manager. D, a motion to appoint Sarah Stull as Gettysburg Borough Stormwater Authority Right-to-Know Officer. E, a motion to appoint Karen Meshner as Gettysburg Borough Stormwater Authority Recording Secretary. F, a motion to appoint Deborah English as Gettysburg Borough Stormwater Authority MS4 Coordinator. And G, a motion to appoint Tammy Murdoff as Gettysburg Borough Stormwater Authority Accountant.
Make
Okay.
a motion to accept motions A through G.
Thanks, John. Second?
Second.
Oh, thanks, Kurt. Any comments, questions? No? Okay, we'll vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Not hearing any. That passed, and we thank everybody for serving in those capacities. I would like to hear a motion to adjourn the meeting, the organizational meeting, that is. Anybody?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Second?
So moved.
Thank you, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Thank you. Now, it's time for the Borough Stormwater Authority meeting of Monday, January 13th. And since there are no welcoming remarks, we'll go right to the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, a motion to approve all bills and payrolls as presented, and a motion to approve the December 9, 2024 meeting minutes.
I'll
Any-
move acceptance of those three motions.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thanks. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
It was a tough,
I'm okay.
thank you, no opposition, thank you. Counselor, we will perform the Heimlich if needed.
That was part of your duties as chair.
Public comment, we have no public here this evening, so no comment. We don't have any special presentations, we'll go right to financial updates. Charles?
So as of December 31st, general revenues over expenditures are negative $73,315. That is, of course, because we put $330,000 earlier in the year into Fund 18 at the borough to help offset the large costs for the stormwater pipe, which is currently being bored under CSX's railroad tracks on Washington Street. Aside from that, it was a year that worked out well for us budgetarily. Our normal operating expenses did not exceed any of our forecasts. And over here in the general fund checking at ACME Bank, we have just under $15,000, not to fret, because when you look at our government investments with Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust, you'll see that we have $635,000 in capital that we can use when we start incurring some capital costs later this year.
Okay, and that's apart from the $300,000 that we've already invested towards the,
Yep. Yep.
the Washington Street
Yeah,
corridor.
this number would be $1 million-ish
Right.
if we had not moved that money, but that money has already been moved.
Thank you. Deb, any update on the billing?
Yes, we sent out a list, and I emailed everyone that list of all of the notifications that went out. There were 241. We are down to around, I think, 158, so we received roughly 83 payments. Since then, I did go through all of the 241 individuals, and anyone that I could find with a email, I sent out the bill prior to the certified mail to try to reduce those costs a little bit. And I think I probably got about 30 payments in there. I do have one of the larger commercial companies that owe $7,000 that are gonna, a check is on the way. So currently, we're at around $37,000 that is unpaid, but with the larger commercial check, that should bring us down to around 30, and that's getting overnighted here. And then we'll have somewhere around 158 still coming in, and we're getting payments in daily. A
Okay.
handful, like maybe 2 to 5. So I'm gonna keep a list running, and I'm gonna keep a paper list too, just with the transition from Freedom, G-Works, or,
Right.
the whole system, so I can make sure everything is kosher.
So I have a quick question.
Sure.
And since we're on this railroad theme, have our railroad partners paid their,
One did, the other's on the way.
beautiful, thank
So,
you.
and
All
that's
need to know-
around
thank you.
$7,000, so
Terrific,
that's a
terrific.
big check that should come in.
Yeah, yep, that's great, thank you.
While Ms. English mentioned G-Works, which reminded me, it's our vendor G-Works now knows we are moving to a new software program. So we can talk about that more publicly now if we wish to. It's anticipated that system will be live in March, shortly after we get trained on that, we can get up and running and get the billing cycle in our normal cycle for July,
Okay, or new normal cycle.
our new normal cycle.
And I did mention, since we're on this, I mentioned to Deborah today that it's going to be real important that we do good communication in, I would say, April and May. And I know we have a newsletter going out, I think, in April.
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
maybe March. And
Yep.
so that would be good for there. And then I even suggested that maybe we ask the Gettysburg Times if they would, like to interview somebody about this and the changes and why and so forth. And I think, Deb, if you can remember, and I'll try to do that, I think it's good to remind people why we exist. I mean, just to, we've been around 5 years, they've been getting bills, it's all, we have a lot of projects. I think we have to remind them that.
We do send out a cover letter that explains the program, MS4, what our purpose is, so I do send that with each bill that goes out every July.
Yep,
I don't think anybody reads it, but
well.
We send it.
I think as we communicate this change.
Absolutely.
We should remind them again.
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions of team, the administrative team? Okay. Old business, Rob.
Good evening. So an update on the stormwater portion of the Gettysburg Interloop Phase B2B. So yes, they started boring underneath the tracks. They actually dug the receiving pit and the boring pit starting on January 2nd. They started digging those. They actually started January 6th boring the stormwater pipe.
Right.
That stormwater pipe was completed, underneath the tracks was completed on Friday the 10th. They still have pits open because they still have to tie into the north side where they ran from the Stevens Run up to where they had to stop before they could dig the pit. So they have to tie that little section in and set a box. Then they have to do the south end all the way up to Racehorse Alley. But they have to sort of coordinate that with the water boring, in which the water boring is happening this week and will be completed this week.
Right.
Because they have to run some services over to the Ice House apartments and to the train station before they can put the stormwater pipe in. So all the boring will be done the end of this week, both pieces, and the work will likely go into February to be completed.
The overall work.
The overall project will be done in February.
But the road will be open, I guess, once they're finished with.
Once they
borings.
finish the water and they can set the boxes and tie the pipe in and backfill everything, then the road will be open.
Right.
So
And
the road probably won't be open till the end of this week,
Yeah.
maybe Monday.
Well, I think the timing in this was very fortuitous. I mean, the college students aren't around.
Right.
Which reduces the traffic on Washington Street. I think people know it's closed, so they're not coming right up to the project from what I've seen when I
Right.
walk around with the dog. So and the
And-
weather's not great, so.
And they hit rock underneath
yeah.
the tracks, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And when they came into the receiving pit, they were only off like 4 inches, which was pretty good for the rock that they had in there,
Yeah,
so.
it was impressive watching. I've
Mm-hmm.
watched it a few times. It's,
It wasn't boring?
it was not,
Sorry.
a lot of equipment.
They teach that in law school. Yeah. You can groan, it's fine.
That's okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Kurt, John, Pat? Okay, thank you for the update. New business. I was the one who suggested that we, sorry, Charles.
No, go right ahead.
We just list some of the things that we had discussed over the last month or the last couple meetings. And I wasn't, working towards closure tonight, but I think we need to keep these things on the agenda because they are important items. So, Charles, go ahead.
So with respect to the Stevens Run Channel Wall ownership, C.S. Davidson's completed a good amount of work on that. We have a parcel property list and the owners to work with now. I would say we're probably close to a point where we can present this to council at a workshop, maybe as early as the end of this month. I just need to review the information that C.S. Davidson has given us and look at their nice little PowerPoint presentation that they gave along with that. Have not had a chance to review it yet. Once that conversation begins, I'm wondering if we don't have a joint meeting, which is what we had discussed before. I can certainly broach that topic later tonight with the council when they meet in their business meeting under my report to them. Don't see them saying no to that. The question is, when? When
Right.
would you like that to happen?
And I would add that, and just looking at the board here, do we want to have a meeting with just ourselves with Charles to talk about what we believe next steps are in this? Or just go to the council and just talk about it in general? Because I find that sometimes if you have a little bit of a roadmap ahead of time before you approach the council, they may reject it, but at least you have something to talk about that's a little more specific. And sort of, these are our ideas, what do you think?
Right.
Sort of thing.
Council is generally apprised of the situation, right?
Oh, yeah, yep, they know it's coming, they know it's not gonna be a pretty conversation,
Right.
but they're willing to dive in, so, yeah,
Chad's list has been prioritized, right?
yes.
Right.
Yep.
Are we going to get a copy of that list, or did that come out?
I could certainly send it, I have it, I can certainly send it.
Yeah, I think sending it out to everybody would be helpful, and you can see how it's at least suggested from his perspective.
Right.
Yeah. Does that list also include the information on each parcel, who owns it?
Yeah,
Yep.
Them, us, or undetermined?
Right.
correct.
It does, okay.
Yep.
Right.
To answer your question, Mike, yes, I think a strategy meeting among us would be worthwhile before we go to council.
I would tend to agree, it's your decision, obviously, but I would tend to agree with that. Otherwise, I think you might sit around and say, this is a problem, yes, we should, without
Right,
no, so what are we gonna do about it?
Right. Right.
My sense.
So can we have that meeting on, do we have to advertise it?
If you're meeting, talking about business, unless you wanna do it and have that be a large part of your February meeting, and you could do it then, you're already scheduled to meet in February, I believe.
That's correct.
Or you could do a special meeting, internal here, whenever you wanna do it, but it
Why
would
not
have to be
just do it at the
advertised.
February meeting?
We could. There's nothing that is so urgent that, we have to do it in 10 days or something. Then what we should do, Karen, if you would remember, Charles, and me too, we need a chunk of time at that February meeting, knowing that we're going to spend time hashing over a lot of options and.
And the discussion materials.
Right, and the
Need
discussion
that
materials
before the
will be
meeting-
out.
Before the meeting.
You know.
Before our meeting.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And in fact, Charles, if you could send that stuff out in the next
Yeah,
week or so.
I'll get it out
So we
tomorrow.
could have, we can,
Can get it out tomorrow.
as
So-
they say, cogitate on it. And as the solicitor, I don't know if you talked to the borough solicitor.
I did, I raised it
Okay.
with him.
Okay, so, good, okay, so, no surprises.
I'm not sure where that stands in his, but he and I did connect on it after
The last.
December, I guess we
Right.
met in December.
Right, okay.
So what I'm hearing is, get the materials to you, which will be tomorrow. I'll give you a month to digest it, meet, I think it's February 10th, I think, is the next meeting.
Sounds right.
Then,
Okay.
and then maybe plan the joint meeting with council at their workshop at the end of February. If that makes sense.
What would that day be?
Be the fourth Monday.
Fourth Monday?
So that would be the 24th?
Yep. Yeah, Monday, the 24th of February.
7 o'clock?
Yeah, 7, yep. So just put a hold on that, and then
Right.
we'll confirm with the council and get back to you.
You want me there? I mean, is that a meeting that I would take minutes for?
No, that would be Sarah, because it'd be a
Sarah.
council, technically a council.
A lot of legal issues. That's, will be a lot of that.
Okay.
It's at 7 it is, right?
Now to remember, or do you?
No, I'll
Got it.
I'll remember.
Okay.
Anything else on Stevens Run?
Anything? No?
Okay. With regard to point B, Chairman Malawicki suggested we put this on the agenda. It's a good planning tool that we have yet to update. So I know Engineer Clayball and myself are up to our eyeballs in grant administration right now. Between the FLAP grant and CDBG and DCNR for the Washington Street project. So we just have not had a chance to really sit down and internally look at this. Obviously, one of the discussion points on this would be related to point A as we develop our capital projects plan moving forward. What we hope to do with that is also project revenue
Correct.
over the next, say, 10 years as we dive deep into these very expensive projects. So we have a cash flow estimate moving forward over not just a year from every year, budget to budget, but over a longer term.
And since you mentioned the word grant, you may, this is not meant as an ambush or anything, but can you give us an update on Cozen?
So, yeah, so Cozen, we, obviously, we've not scored the,
Big bucks.
the 8-digit
Right.
win yet. Usually you want 7, but we're going for 8 in some of our really large grant asks. However, they've been very instrumental in helping us connect the dots with the people that say yay or nay to these grant awards. The last election cycle threw everyone for a little bit of a loop because we were just developing some positive outreach with Senator Casey. So now we kind of need to start over again with Senator McCormick. But they are doing that. We have irons in the fire with his crew already. So they're aware of Gettysburg, they're aware of our projects, and we just need to continue building that relationship or those relationships. The RAISE grant specifically, which is going to be for the Gettysburg Gateway Connectivity Project, AKA the Baltimore Street Revitalization, big stormwater component to that, also potable water component to that. Cozen's helping make those connections as well. So we'll see where it goes. But that grant is due at the end of this month, January 31st, it's due. And so we'll know late summer, early fall, whether or not we have succeeded in the 8-digit ask
Good.
for this project.
Good. Yep. And it's all connected because even to Stevens Run, channel ownership someday, we have, when we apply for grants,
Right.
we have to own it. So it's all connected.
Own it or have permission from the landowner?
Oh, we'll discuss
Okay.
all those details at the workshop, yeah. Okay. And Deborah, I know we had talked about implementing another application for sort of that middle ground.
Right now, we have a minor plan that has a sketch plan and some information they need to provide with the total impervious area. We don't have anything in our system currently for anything between 800 and 5,000 square feet. So I do have to get together with Chad and go over that. Our minor review fee is $25. The major review fee is $50. I don't know if you guys want to increase any of those fees or not. Then the review fees for the engineering does get billed back to the applicant. So for the major plans, Chad has to review those plans, and then the applicant does pay those fees back.
Okay,
So we
covers
just have to
Chad's
come up
costs.
with some type of protocol for submittal and maybe like a checklist or timeframe of how they need to be reviewed. But I do need to work with Chad on that because he's the second component for review between 800 and 5, and then the only engineering is only reviewed by him when it's over 5,000. So it's considered, a major plan that has to be engineered and stamped.
I would just ask that you just keep working on it. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
like I said,
You want
this
to
is
keep
not.
the fees the same, the review fees? I mean, they haven't changed in 5 years. I didn't know if you wanted to increase them at all.
Do they cover the expenses for the review?
There you go.
Maybe. Sorry.
I would definitely work from that angle.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll
we
talk
want to be
Chad
fair with
because-
everybody.
Yeah, his time is a little bit more than mine. I think it does cover the 25 for the minor, more or less. Depends. It depends on how detailed it is, how much information they give me. If it's not a complete submittal, then we go back and forth, and I spend a lot of time chasing the information down. So,
I would just ask what the average, what an average submittal, and then I'd let you and Chad recommend to us
Okay.
what you think is fair. And if it
Okay.
stays the same, fine. If it needs to go up, we just have to have the rationale,
okay, that sounds good.
to do that.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions on any of these ongoing issues? Any other comments about, Charles, you put anything up there interesting?
Yeah, I was just looking at our ownership list. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, as you can see, there are,
Yeah.
you can't read the whole thing.
Gap.
but-
What does
Yep.
ADM dash Aqua mean? On that last
I
column?
I don't know, I haven't looked at it before just now.
Why don't you send these out to folks, and then we can look at them in a detailed fashion, so, thank you. Go ahead.
The only other thing I would add, just for the awareness of the authority members, I imagine by this next meeting, your next regular meeting on 10th, that's probably right about when we're going to be filing liens.
Yep.
Might be the next day, but it'll be right around then. So, just a heads up on that.
Okay.
The 30-day letters did go out, courtesy of Deborah. So, we, well, not we, the property owner essentially was given at least 30 days' notice that if they don't pay, the authority has the right to file that lien. We normally let it go a couple days after that, just to allow things to trickle in through the mail, and also just to give folks a little extra time should they wish to drop off a check in person, because it's not the goal of the authority to file those liens, but
No.
just
Not at
wanted
all.
everybody to be aware. So,
Not at all.
How's this compare to the last billing? Do we have more delinquency or less? Or the same?
I think that's a Deborah question, but it's more to my knowledge.
It's a lot more. Normally, we have like 80 to 90, and then half of those folks pay once we send out the 30-day notice. This time, we've had 241. So I'm not sure what happened. I think there was some issues with the last year and the account numbers changing when we had some addressing issues through Freedom. So when they got corrected, it kind of skewed a few things that we've been trying to work on and fix. So they're a little higher now. That's why I sent out an email as well to try to contact folks that may or may not have gotten the notification, but it is definitely a lot higher, and I'm not exactly sure why.
Do you know the,
Did we offer the discount? We didn't offer the discount this time, right?
no, we did.
No, we
We
did.
did?
This is,
Okay.
this is the last billing for discount, I think.
Okay.
Do you know roughly what the dollar value is outstanding?
Right now, to date?
Yeah.
The dollar value right now is around 36,000. But I'm also waiting for a $7,000 payment from one of the rail corps, and that would put us at probably 28 to 29.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that we've ever, this is just going from memory, but I don't know that we've ever filed lien against anyone who owed more than $400 on the face.
I
They're,
don't believe so.
Yeah.
they're always small properties.
And I have one that
Mhm.
has never paid. So I don't know if we should do something, it's just one
Special.
property owner that has not paid since 2019.
A true frequent flyer.
And we did start doing interest.
Yes.
Yes.
23, I believe, but it's not triggering a payment, so.
Right.
Sure.
I don't know if we need to do something else, if higher interest fees if it's not paid within 6 months, or something to kind of encourage.
Well,
So is this a rental property?
No, I don't believe so.
Is the property known to be a problem in general to the borough?
They did come through HARB to do some upgrades. There are some disrepair on the property that we would like to see upkept, so that has not happened yet.
I think that's an offline,
I agree with that.
conversation
Yeah.
to talk about that specific issue, but in
Can't
general.
talk about enforcement actions in
Yeah,
public.
right.
Yeah.
But in general, it sounds like we're a little higher than previous years, but they're coming in.
Yes, they're
And
trickling in.
and it's the last thing we really want to do is lien somebody's
Absolutely.
property, but, you know, if they're not paying, that's our only recourse. Okay? Any other questions about anything we discussed tonight? Anything? Okay. Public comment? That's not going to happen. So.
It would if anyone was here, yeah.
That's right. Good point. So, does someone like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that one.
Thank you, Pat. Kurt. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. And we're adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order this business meeting for the Borough of Gettysburg Borough Council for Monday, January 13th, 2025. We will start, as we always do, with a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge. Thank you, everybody. An executive session will be conducted by the Borough Council immediately following the adjournment of this evening's monthly general business meeting, consistent with Section 708A1 and Section 708A5 of the Sunshine Act for the following purposes. 1, to provide information and discuss matters involving the employment and the terms and conditions of continued employment of current borough employees, and 2, to review and discuss matters of borough business, which, if conducted in public, could lead to the disclosure of information or matters of confidentiality protected by law. Takes us to the minutes and agenda. Would anybody care to make a motion to approve the January 13th, 2025 agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion about the agenda? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Would anybody care to make a motion to approve the minutes of the Borough Council meeting of December 9th, 2024 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, omissions, corrections, or errors? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Thank you. This takes us to our first public comment section of the evening. This section is restricted to items appearing on tonight's agenda. We ask that you use the podium. Please state your name and address of residence, and please limit yourself to 5 minutes. Is there any public comment tonight? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to current and old business. We'll start the evening with Mr. Whitmore in the Planning Department.
Before we do that, Mr. President, I just wanted to let the public know that Member Lawson is joining us via conference phone.
Thank you.
Good evening. A copy of the report was provided electronically. Just a quick recap. Planning Commission will be meeting next Tuesday. They are delayed for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. The Zoning Hearing Board will be meeting for the reorganizational meeting on the 22nd. They actually probably have a hearing coming up in February, which we're still working on the application with the applicant. In departmental news, we're working on our annual report. It does appear that there were more building permits issued, so we're interested in looking at the finer points of the data, and especially the time changes, looking at that post-COVID bump that we all experienced nationwide. And then, I guess not included in the report, it recently snowed. One of the things we remind residents is the need to clear walkways. That is something that Pete has been out doing enforcement actions. It is a little challenging when it comes to snow because it has a tendency to melt before we can actually get formal resolution, or at least a method to ensure that won't happen again. But we are making efforts to inform property owners of the necessity of clearing their walkways. That concludes the report.
All right. Any questions for John? All right. Thank you, sir. Deb?
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. I have two motions on the agenda, and I did want to update. We did file the 30-day notice for stormwater, so those will be due payments prior to February 20th. On or shortly after that date, we will be filing liens on those properties that have not paid. We're also looking into a toxic chemical pickup. It would be slightly costly, anywhere from $40 to $60 a person or per resident. They need a minimum of so much equipment, and they are DEP certified to handle those things, but they would bring everything here, and I think the cost would be somewhere around $11,000. So depending on how many folks we would have that would sign up, that would want to bring paint or chemicals in their house that they can't dispose of and things like that, we might be able to do that, but I'm still kind of trying to gather numbers and find out if people would be willing to pay to have that service provided here for a pickup.
Excellent. That is a service Judy has brought up before as being very difficult to organize. I imagine we might find a somewhat eager audience for such an action, although $11,000 is a lot to kind of cover there.
I can talk to Stormwater.
I'm sorry, can you pull the mic a little closer?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I can also talk to our stormwater division, since we're in the MS4 program, illicit discharge and things like that. They might help cost share some of those fees to bring that cost down per resident. So I will do that at our next meeting and see if that's something they might be willing to do, to kind of do a community event, because we are required to do public outreach and education as well. So that could fit under one of those categories.
Yeah, I'll just restate it, just in case people didn't pick it up through your microphone there. Deb is looking into the possibility of a hazardous chemical disposal event, much like we do for electronics devices and paper shredding. Sounds like it would be costly, and there would be a cost for borough residents as well. But I know most of us have old cans of paint we don't know how to get rid of. So for those of you watching at home, if that is something that interests you, please let your council representatives know so we can start trying to figure out how much interest there might be amongst our citizens in participating in an event like that. That's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that include batteries too?
Batteries, there's several types of categories, so depending on what we choose, they could do fertilizers, chemicals, paints. There's a plethora of items that they can collect, but they're different price points. So there are some areas that can take some battery recycling, but I will check with them and check on the cost for those things, and then we can decide how we want to package that together. But they are all certified and permitted through DEP, so they bring their own staff, they bring their own equipment, the collection devices, and then, we could still help, stage like we do normally for the other events. But it was tough trying to find someone certified that could actually collect those chemicals.
Yeah. Typical like batteries like Duracells you might get at the store, those can actually go in your refuse because they're no longer manufactured with mercury. Anything rechargeable, though, you're right, would need to be recycled in a proper manner. And we are
It has to be after 1995. If you have a drawer
Sure.
full of batteries you've had for 20 years, and they were produced before 1995, they're full of mercury.
Yeah.
So look at the dates.
Yeah, I'm sure we all have homes full of stuff we don't know how to dispose of. So thank you for looking into that. Does anybody else have any other questions for Deb?
I do. I understand Stormwater had their organizational meeting this evening.
Yes.
Anything surprising, out of the ordinary?
I believe everyone that was in a board position has reaccepted that for the following year, so there were no changes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? All right. Would anybody care to make the first HARB motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendations of the Borough of Gettysburg Historic Architectural Review Board, HARB, following its review during a meeting held and conducted on December 18, 2024, and to approve the grant of certificates of appropriateness for the following applications as presented. COA-240076, Major Project, 14 Lincoln Square, the House of Bender, for the rear exterior facade project to include wrapping the deteriorated structural elements with house wrap, replacing the rotted wood underlayment with 2 foot by 8 foot flat boards, replacing the deteriorated historic metal panel tiles with hardy plank wood siding, replacing the current gutter system with 5-inch gutters and downspouts, and replacing the wood trim as needed in order to prevent further water damage into the structure. And COA-240067, Major Project, 155 South Washington Street, Noah Rubria, for the removal of the deteriorated rear second-floor wood porch structure to include replacing the porch decking with a gray composite material, the porch railings and columns with a white TimberTech material in a traditional style, replace all K-style gutters and downspouts to prevent further water damage. This action is taken in consideration of the review of the factors and criteria and the findings made thereon by HARB as set forth in its December 18, 2024 meeting minutes, and the same are hereby adopted by the Borough Council.
We have a motion. Is there a
Second.
second? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Would anybody care to make the second motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the updated statement of factors and criteria as set forth in the COA-240078 Certificate of Appropriateness Report as reviewed and approved by the Borough of Gettysburg Historic Architectural Review Board, HARB, at its meeting held and conducted on December 18, 2024, and to accept and incorporate by reference the report as a supplement to the approved minutes of the November 20th, 2024 HARB meeting, and accordingly to ratify the approval of the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for the Gettysburg Station project at 108 North Stratton Street during the monthly general business meeting of the council held on December 9th, 2024, in consideration of the findings and recommendations of HARB, as set forth in its November 20th, 2024 meeting minutes.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I heard Mr. Berger as a second. I believe Mr. Eastman wanted to give us some background on this motion.
Some background and a bit of an explanation. As you know, by majority vote, the Borough Council accepted the unanimous recommendation of the borough's Historic Architectural Review Board following its review at its November 20th, 2024 monthly meeting of HARB and approved the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for the Gettysburg Station project. Such action was based upon the minutes of the November 20th HARB meeting and a subsequent correspondence with an explanation and clarification of the HARB review process directed to the Borough Council from Gary W. Schaefer in his capacity as the chairperson of HARB, who had presided over the November 20th HARB proceedings. At the December 9th, 2024 meeting, during an extended public comment period, several persons requested that the Borough Council reject the recommendations of HARB. Pursuant to the provisions of the Municipal Historic Districts Law and the Gettysburg Historic District Ordinance, HARB is a body authorized to give counsel to a municipal governing body such as the Borough Council, and the Borough Council, in turn, is instructed to give weight to the recommendations of HARB regarding the advisability of issuing a certificate of appropriateness. In consultation with Mr. Whitmore, and in light of the public criticisms and requests to reject HARB's recommendations, a draft written report was prepared for review of HARB at its December 18th, 2024 meeting. At that meeting, HARB reviewed, updated, and unanimously approved the proposed Certificate of Appropriateness report as a supplement to the minutes of the November 20th HARB meeting. That report went through and discussed the applicable criteria that was reviewed by HARB in Section 110 of the Historic District Ordinance of the Borough. The Certificate of Appropriateness, as approved by HARB, has been provided to the members of Borough Council, along with the approved minutes of the November 20th HARB meeting and the minutes of the December 18th meeting. This motion has been prepared and placed on this evening's agenda for the consideration of the council to accept the Certificate of Appropriateness report approved by HARB as a supplement to its November 20th meeting minutes, and to ratify the approval of the issuance of the Certificate of Appropriateness by the Borough Council at its meeting on December 9th, 2024, which was based upon the recommendation of HARB.
Any questions or discussion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. It takes us to the parking department. Thank you, Deb.
Good evening. I did provide a copy of my report in the folder. I have my comparisons there as normal. If you have any questions, please let me know. I can play with those graphs and charts a little bit and explain those if you need anything. The LPPs purchased in December are still staying around 40. The reserve spaces are still around the same they've been. And I would like to, just like John said, I know it was January, the snow was, but remind residents that you have 48 hours to move vehicles. If you have permits or on a non-permitted RPP street, every vehicle in the borough has to move every 48 hours, and you cannot put things out to reserve your space.
All right. Any questions or comments for Becca?
I do, of course. I had some folks in town ask me when we went to the free parking in the garage on this recent winter storm. I believe that there might have been some confusion. exactly when it became free. I read the snow emergency post that said, I believe it was Monday at 5 a.m. That's when the emergency began, but we were encouraging folks to kind of get off the street before then, so to get over there to the garage Sunday night. I think that that's a very helpful way to ensure that residents get off the streets and including but not limited to any personnel from EMS and volunteer fire department that may be needing to move their car over there to that garage. I think that's a great opportunity for us to be a good council. I would encourage that we consider, should that happen again, is there any way that we consider making that as early as possible of, yes, get over there in that garage and not ticket anybody, and just so that we can, everybody has plenty of time to get over there. Is that?
I'll
do
take,
that?
Becca,
Okay.
I'll take this question. The challenge we have is the removal of cars from emergency snow routes by ordinance actually kicks in when there's 2 inches of snow that have already fallen. So in this case, we actually issued the snow emergency prior to 2 inches of snow falling. So knowing that it was going to start early in the morning, we took that step. It's always going to be a judgment call based on the forecast and the timing of the forecast. I can remember we did this once where we preempted a snowstorm and then nothing happened. So that's also the flip side of the coin. So every storm's going to be different, and we just have to take best judgment calls when that happens.
Great. So going forward, there was there was an email with get ready, it's probably going to happen, and then there was the actual. So I like to try to get the correct information out there to the public. So when that email went out, was that the correct time, or was I supposed to wait until the snow emergency was declared?
So there was an announcement put out on Friday prior to the Monday that it's likely we're going to be issuing a snow emergency based on the consistency of a forecast. And Sunday afternoon, it was pretty certain we were going to have snow to the depth of a snow emergency. Based on the timing predicted by the National Weather Service is why we put the snow emergency to go into effect at 5, even though 2 inches of snow wouldn't technically be on the ground at 5 a.m. And that was what happened. There was not 2 inches at 5 a.m. The National Weather Service, if memory serves me correctly, issued the winter storm warning prior to 5 a.m. So I guess you could make the argument you'd follow what the National Weather Service puts out there. But again, the National Weather Service has issued winter storm warnings in the past and then no snowfalls. So again, it's a judgment call.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Becca. It takes us to Robbie with Public Works.
Good evening. You all should have received my report. Some highlights on my report. First thing is the special events for 2024 have been completed, and all the blocks have been returned back to the Public Works building for storage for next year's event. After the first of the year, the second and third and fourth, we finished up our leaf collection right before we got a snow. So I will have numbers for leaves and brush for 2024 next month for you. Christmas tree collection started January 2nd. Residents are urged to place their trees on top of the curb, not in the street, for collection, and we will come around to get them, or place them in the alley. Remove all the lights and ornaments, and anything else that might be in the tree. We just want a bare Christmas tree. No artificial trees. We will not collect artificial trees. There is a drop-off out at the Guerra Building, at the Charlie Sterner lot in the parking lot. And you can also bring your trees down to our building at 457 East Middle Street if you'd like to, instead of waiting for us to come around and pick them up. That's all my highlights.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Robbie?
I have a comment.
You speak more into the mic.
The term ornaments and lights does not include tinsel, and in the past, tinsel, the metal tinsel, has been a problem. People left it on, and that cannot happen.
We haven't seen too much problem with tinsel in the past couple years.
Good.
But that is a possibility, yes.
Good.
Anyone else?
I just want to thank Robbie and his team. Another great job with snow removal. You guys are also busy with the Christmas trees and everything else. So keep up the good work, and thank you.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Yes. All right. Thank you, Robbie. Is somebody going to be standing in for Chad tonight?
We're going to tag team on this. Chad has a family commitment tonight and won't be with us. The first motion deals with the ongoing project on Washington Street. We do have an invoice, and the engineer has reviewed that invoice by York Excavating and has affirmed that that invoice is correct in the amount of $32,861.39. So if someone makes that motion, $32,861.39 should be inserted in the blank. And Robbie can update the status of the boring and the project at large.
Okay, so the boring out there, they started digging the receiving and boring pits on January 2nd. They actually started the boring for the stormwater portion January 6th. And they completed it the 10th. Now, the boring pits are still open because they have a little bit of work to do to connect into the storm drain that they previously installed before they could do the boring. But they're planning on getting those closed and they dug the pits for the water boring on Monday, today. So they will be doing the water boring this week and have it done this week too. Now, the road closures will still happen probably up till the end of next week, till they get the water boring done and everything installed, that they can backfill the pits and open up the road. But there still will be some more work out there for the remaining part of the storm water portion, going south towards Racehorse Alley and a little section between the north of the tracks to the entrance to the train station there. There's a little piece that they have to put in once they get a box set. But things are going well. They really didn't have too many issues that they had to deal with. So they're pretty much on schedule for getting the borings completed.
So they didn't hit any crazy rock deposits there?
They hit rock, yes.
But
They
nothing
actually
that slowed it down too
Yeah,
much?
they actually hit rock. It slowed them down a little bit, but the receiving pit for the stormwater with the hard rock, as they were boring through, when they opened up into the receiving pit, they were off like 4 inches because the drill with the rock and the drill had moved maybe 4 inches, which was not a big deal. We had tolerance for that, so they were pretty impressive doing that. It's a pretty impressive project. So
very cool. All right, any further questions about the engineer's report? All right, thank you both. We have 2 motions there.
I'll make a motion to approve application for payment number 4 to York Excavating Company in the amount of $32,861.39 for the North Washington Street Water and Storm Project as recommended by the Borough Engineer.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. And the second motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the borough engineer to advertise the 2025 Racehorse Alley Parking Garage Maintenance Project for construction bids.
Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
We might want to explain this a little bit on what exactly the maintenance is in the garage.
Please.
Okay, so every other year we do levels in the garage, and we do maintenance on it, like we grind out the cracks, reseal them. But this year we're doing level 2 and 3 and some stair tower work in this bid this year. Chad would like to get it advertised now for bids before the contractors get their season filled up, but they won't be able to bid on it and do the work. So that's why he would like to have that advertised in January, hopefully open up in February.
All right. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries as well. It takes us to Chief Glennie.
Good evening, Happy New Year. Have my report. Happy to answer any questions on it. A couple things of concern were the number of crashes, if you saw this month or last month, were elevated significantly.
Is your mic on, sir?
What's that?
Is your mic on?
No, it's not. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
And I really don't have an explanation for that. It'd be conjecture. I'm thinking it's people in town, people being pushed to go different ways that they haven't gone before. Things similar to that. Our number of domestics we responded to were up as well, kind of significantly, but I think that's a product of the season, unfortunately. People get stuck together, and fortunately, sometimes it doesn't turn out so well. Some of the events of the year end have forced us to reevaluate some of our security and traffic measures, as I put in the report, for special events, and we're still evaluating, waiting on a report for final report on some debriefing on what happened in New Orleans. So, unfortunately, there may be some more recommendations coming down for security for bigger events based on that. The Civil Service Commission actually posted or sent out the announcement for the hiring that you all approved. And we're slowly getting that worked into different places between the department and HR. So if you want to recommend people, it's on the website, it's advertised in a couple different places, and it will be put in a few more. Be happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
I don't have a question, but I do want to say I think you're absolutely right. Over the last few years, first members of this council, including myself, sort of were dismayed by the heightened security risks around special events. And I've seen lots of comment in the public sphere, too, sort of saying how silly we are for taking these considerations into account. And while we haven't had an incident like that here, that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. And I think time has shown that those precautions were warranted, so thank you for that.
Yeah, it's sadly
Yep.
necessary.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for the chief? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It takes us to the office of the manager and the treasurer. Sarah?
Okay, Happy New Year, everyone. I just want to give a shout out to some employees that have been here for a long period of time. Wayne Heflin's been here 28 years, and Robbie back here is 20 years this month. And Police Officer Shannon Hilliard will be here 10 years this month.
All right.
So congratulations to them.
Oh, and gratitude to all of them as well. Charles?
I'd just like to highlight a couple things. The council just passed a budget last month. The The chart that I am showing on the screen, and I know that we can see this at home for those watching at home, I just wanted to remind everyone of the fiscal challenges presented by Gettysburg Borough. You'll find this in the manager's budget message in every single one that I've written, but I thought I'd take a couple seconds to highlight that challenge that the better part of 40% of Gettysburg Borough is exempt from taxation. So every parcel you see on this map that is in red does not pay property tax. So it's often lamented that, Gettysburg Borough has a high taxation rate compared to the rest of the county. This is largely why that is the case. And so I thought it'd be useful for folks at home and other places to understand that, so that whenever a council is making the unfortunate decision to consider a tax increase, this map largely drives that decision. On the flip side of that, there is some good news to report as well. As it relates to parking revenue, if you remember, the council also authorized an increase in parking rates. The last time that was done was in 2017. This graph tracks parking rate or parking revenue since 2016, and you can see in 2017 when the initial increase happened, parking revenue did continue to increase. Obviously, the 2020 year is very noticeable on this graph. But then after the pandemic, parking revenue continued to increase even at the 2017 rates. It wasn't until fiscal year 2024 when the council authorized a daily rate increase in the parking garage that we saw a sizable and notable increase in parking revenue for 2024. So without even having December 2024's statistics on this graph, largely because those parking numbers have yet to be finalized for December of last year, you can see that parking revenue was significantly outpacing prior years. This graph highlights pillow tax revenue. So you can see through 2014 through 2019, pillow tax revenue realized by the borough just, hovered in the 160 or just slightly below 160,000 a year. Post-pandemic, interestingly enough, that did increase, and quite notably in 2023. But in 2024, you can see it is backing off a little bit, but it still remains above the historical norm from the years 2014 through 2019. So I just wanted to take a couple seconds to highlight both those graphs and give a little bit of explanation on why the borough continues to struggle financially, primarily because of our high exempt status. I wanted to point out as well that this Wednesday, America 250 PA is having a county-wide event at the Gettysburg Historical Society at 625 Biglerville Road, 3 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. The purpose of this meeting is to re-engage Adams County to begin to generate ideas and make plans for the year 2026, which is the commemoration of the 250th anniversary of our founding as a nation. Please RSVP. Everyone is welcome at destinationgettysburg.com/America250th. Just so we have an idea of who might be interested in attending. Again, it is open to anyone essentially in the county that's interested in participating at some level for our commemoration, and the Historical Society is giving free access and tours to the Beyond the Battle amenity. I wanted to talk briefly about our year-to-date numbers. These are preliminary in that we don't have quite all of our revenue finalized for 2024, but in general, while the revenue over expenditure number looks alarming in that it's showing a $905,000 deficit for 2024. That actually is not the case in reality. If you remember, council authorized a transfer from the general fund to Fund 18 or Fund 30, which is capital reserves, in $1,750,000. So that is largely the reason you're showing a deficit of $900,000. So the money is still in a bank account. It just switched funds from Fund 1 to Fund 30. So if you put that back into general fund, the borough had a very robust financial year again, largely driven by the drawdown of ARPA funds, which we talk about every year and continue to talk about until 2026 when those funds are exhausted. A note about our grant application, January 31st is the deadline for the borough to apply for the RAISE grant, Rebuilding America Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. This will be an 8-figure ask from the Department of Transportation. It is primarily exclusively actually, the Gettysburg Gateway Connectivity Project. There are many facets to this. We've been talking about it for many years now. In this round, we are adding some stormwater and potable water elements to the project. Cozen O'Connor, our folks that we have engaged to help us engage our elected officials in Washington, D.C., are working on building those relationships. We have a little bit behind the ball on that, in that the election did throw us a little bit of a curve in that we were building strong relationships with Senator Casey. Now we have to, quick order, develop those relationships with Senator McCormick. But Cozen O'Connor is on it. They have those meetings set up, and this project is in front of Senator McCormick already. My final thought is related to stormwater as well. First, I would just say that I kind of find this a bit funny, in that member Charles Strauss of the Stormwater Authority was not present at tonight's meeting, but yet he was still elected secretary. I guess that goes in the voluntold category. But council did reappoint him, so he's already serving in that capacity, so it should not be an issue. It's always interesting when someone's not at a meeting and they get elected to a position.
That's what happened.
The Stormwater Authority is looking for a way to engage the council in a conversation related to Stevens Run and ownership of the channel walls. C.S. Davidson has completed their assessment of the channel walls. They have done the research on who owns the parcels that abut the channel walls. So at the Stormwater Authority's February 10th meeting, they will formally begin to publicly discuss this effort. And then a path forward will begin to emerge from those discussions. What the Stormwater Authority is requesting is a joint meeting with the Borough Council to further discuss this effort, and it would be my recommendation, should the council agree to a joint meeting, to do that at the February workshop. So before we get into the motions on my tab, maybe would this be an appropriate time to entertain that discussion, or do you want to wait till the workshop at the end of this month? Knowing that we would have to advertise for the Stormwater Authority if they're having a joint meeting with us.
I'm sorry, so what is the question you're asking right now?
If you would prefer to if you would like to have a joint meeting with the Stormwater Authority at your February workshop to discuss specifically the channel walls.
Do you have an opinion as to whether we should do that, Chris?
I think it would be prudent.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see if they're available for that. I think that that would probably be the best. I think that's probably a discussion best had as a group and publicly, so let's reach out to them. Is everybody in agreement on that?
Yes.
Okay.
It would be at the same time,
Yep.
7 PM.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Charles or for Sarah?
I have a question for the borough manager, and that is it, and if it's premature, we can discuss it obviously at our workshop in February, but is stormwater, is there a suggestion that some property owners would own the walls and others would not? Or are they looking to make a blanket recommendation, stormwater?
Yeah, the channel walls, there is a spreadsheet, and certainly I'll send this out to the council for review prior to those meetings and discussions. C.S. Davidson has prioritized which portions of the channel walls need essentially immediate attention versus, they're not great, they can wait, or those that are actually in pretty good condition. So they'll have that hierarchy spelled out for you. And along with that, they will also identify channel walls that we currently own and that we should own. And then there are those that are kind of in this gray area where there might be a great debate on whether the borough actually owns those. And then there are those that shall never or should never be owned by the borough, and so those will be articulated as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Did we dog year any funds for that project for this year?
For repairs? No. Stormwater Authority has funds in the bank, about $630,000. So if something were to immediately fail, we would have the funds to remedy that in short order. But this is going to be the better part of an $11 million project, all said and told. So there's going to have to be a very deliberate financing discussion moving forward, and that's one of the reasons the authority would like to meet with the council in joint session.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we, as a group, earlier last year, we had come to the consensus that the channel walls represent an intrinsic part of our infrastructure, and should they begin to fail, as we fear they will, especially in several key spots, and we've already seen a large failure in those channel walls right off of Water Street. We know it's coming. It's a question of when, not if. And we all, I believe, were of the mind that saddling property owners with the cost of those failures was unreasonable, and that these are things that are better dealt with together than individually. So that will be an interesting and expensive conversation. Any other questions for Charles or Sarah? All right. Would anybody care to start the motions?
I'll make a motion to approve all bills and payrolls for the month as presented.
Second.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Tax exoneration?
I'll make a motion to accept the J.P. Harris Associates Tax Exoneration Report for tax years 2001 to 2006 and 2008 to 2014 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, please.
I'll make a motion to appoint Tammy Murdoff as the borough's representative to the Board of Directors of the York Adams Tax Bureau, and to appoint Lisa Engstad as the borough's alternate representative to the Board of Directors of the York Adams Tax Bureau.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. And the last one.
I'll make
make a motion to appoint Tammy Murdoff as the borough's representative to the Adams County Tax Collection Committee and to appoint Lisa Angstad as the borough's alternate representative to the Adams County Tax Collection Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. This brings us to our liaison reports, and we will start with Main Street Gettysburg and Jill Sellers.
Good evening, all, and Happy New Year. Real quick, obviously, a lot of things happen in a whole year, so Main Street's annual report, if anybody's interested, is available online, or I got paper copies if you prefer that. Real quick, going over volunteers for 2024, almost 1,500 hours of volunteer hours were logged for just Main Street Gettysburg, and I find this phenomenal. So that's over $50,000 of basically selfless service of things that were provided to the borough and our community, but out of the goodness of people's labor and love for our community. Wrap-up of the Christmas Festival. Believe it or not, we've already had 2 meetings starting this year's Christmas Festival. In case you were wondering, Christmas never sleeps at Main Street. But some really nice metrics that came out of the festival. So the surveys, taking a look at the value of the event itself, 82% believe it's a value to the community. 57% of businesses think that it's a high value to their business. 50% of businesses reported increased foot traffic to their business, and 36% reported an increase in their sales. Attendees, 48% of them spent more than $150 while they were here. And hotel occupancy for this year was up to 72.5%, over 46% last year. That was for Friday. Saturday saw 70% lodging occupancy, up from 53% in 2023. So really good return on numbers. 43% of people travel more than 50 miles, and I'm really excited that 26% of people were local. So we have Adams County people and Gettysburg folks coming downtown. My thanks to the borough staff, the chief of police and his staff, the auxiliary officers that came out and helped, and certainly Public Works for all they do. And we're already talking about this year and the concerns that we have for safety and other measures that we're going to have to take into consideration as we go forward for these public events. But, it is certainly a team effort. Charles mentioned the Raise Street grant, so due at the end of January, Main Street Gettysburg, we're working on letters of support from organizations, businesses. We put those with that package every year, and it really just shows the value to our community and our business and how that is going to affect, the longevity and the vitality of our community going forward. A couple of programs happening. Gettysburg Loves Love. That was last year's inaugural event, so mark your calendar for February 15th on this square. More news to come on that. We just announced our zero-interest loan program for businesses, so businesses looking to do upgrades to their business, please contact Main Street Gettysburg and find out how you can get an application for this program. It's available online, but if you have questions about what's eligible and how that works, please see us. We would be happy to help you reinvest in your business. And then finally, the focus of our life, other than Christmas, is the Gettysburg Welcome Center. So a lot of things have continued to happen over the last several years for this project. One, we continue to work with the team on the congressional appropriations. So the project did receive $1.27 million in congressional funding, but there's a process by which to access those funds. We are at 3 out of 4 of those wickets for Section 106. So stand by for more work on that, but we're hoping that that's going to move forward in big ways in 2025. My thanks to the community for their support during the giving spree. $73,906 into the endowment account is going to help the operational fund of this project once it's built, which means that it will not be an additional tax burden to this community, which I think is vital to its survival and really to us building it in the first place. So our thanks to the community.
And the last request I have is that we are just shy of the $100,000 challenge that we have from the Wareheim Foundation. So if you haven't given to this noble project, please reach out to me, and we are almost there, and I want to make sure that we meet that match, because that doubles that, it doubles down on that, and we can add that to the endowment fund total, which continues to grow. It's currently at $166,000 at Adams County Community Foundation. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
When's the deadline for that?
End of March.
Challenge grant, end of March.
Thanks. Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Chad Allen, Gara.
Yes, I have a few things from our new director at the Rec Park, Al Moyer. All kinds of good stuff happening at the park. Here's just a few. Trees trimmed and improved lighting surrounding the amphitheater area. This should diminish loitering and vandalism. Renewed our agreement with the farmers market for another year. Yay. Currently negotiating new MOUs with all youth sports. The Rec Park staff are conducting more in-house repairs on equipment rather than outsourcing. Reviewing our agreement with the Typical Life Corporation as we host them for another year. Just made arrangements for 3 weeks of summer soccer camps. So if you are a soccer player or want to learn, there's 3 weeks of summer soccer camps coming. They'll be hosting World Classrooms again this year, and we actually expanded the program. Al's meeting with the service organizations, Eagles, Optimists, Kiwanis, et cetera, to thank them for donating and up them on some happenings and much, much more. All good stuff. Al Moyer is hitting the ground running with a rec park, and I thank him for that. And I have one other thing that I wanted to give a shout out to. Oh, no, I'll come back at the end of the council meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. Chris, GMA.
I was not able to make the December meeting,
Okay.
so do not have a report.
All right. Judy, the bid.
As Jill mentioned, the bid has begun an intensive discussion about the Christmas festival and how deep their participation will be and how many of their businesses will do so. They also are, you all probably know, every year BID hosts a baseball event, old-time baseball, and there was a good bit of discussion about that, how they will up the attendance of folks who are attending the baseball games to persuade them to come to Steinway and shop. And lots of interesting ideas, short of grabbing them around the knees and dragging them to Steinway. So active things coming up, and Steinway continues to be an important part of this community.
All right. Mayor Freeling, ACPA.
The next meeting is January 20th, 6:30 at the Emergency Services Center at Greenmeyer Lane.
Okay. We look forward to that report. Judy, the COG.
Yes, unlike most of the liaison organizations who did not meet in December because of the holiday season, COG did meet, and we continue to analyze the survey results of what the county-wide need for cybersecurity assistance is. COG will again meet the end of this month, and I will attend that meeting and have a report on that next time.
Thank you. Patty, Happy.
Yep, Happy will meet tomorrow evening at 5:30.
All right, thank you. We look forward to your report next month. Judy, ACTPO.
ACTPO was one of those organizations who did not meet in December, but they will meet in January later this month. And I received notification of the day and time of that meeting today from Andrew Merkel, and told him that I will attend.
All right, thank you. Anything on the trail feasibility study? All right. Are we expecting that to convene at any point in the coming year?
It's actually up to the National Park Service. They're doing their study.
Okay.
And they're just
Got
taking
it.
their time.
Okay. All right, anything on recycling, Judy?
Just the calls have begun coming in, asking when will be the next electronic device event. And as soon as that is in concrete, we'll be sure it gets into the Times on the Borough website and announced here. I would like to set up our biannual meeting with our contracted hauler, and I'd like to set the next one up in February. The staff, of course, will be invited, as will fellow council members, to share any comments, complaints, or questions with representatives from, this time, Waste Management. I don't think that's mine.
All right.
That's all.
Anybody have any comments on the fire or EMS reports? All right. That takes us to elected officials' comments. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say?
Yes, I attended a Black History Committee meeting by the Adams County Historical Society. Andrew Dalton was in attendance, and also it was headed by Gene Howard Green. And they're talking about plans for the Jack Hopkins House on South Washington Street, and about how that's going to be a Black History Museum, and what areas of history it's going to focus on, not only the Civil War, but all the way up to the present, and also historical, I shouldn't say, but historical, prominent members of this community and what they did for history and Black rights here. And one I would like to take my hat off to is to Adam Myers. He did a lot for desegregation in the 60s. So they're now looking at the layout, what it's going to, the color schemes and fonts and things like that. So it's just really basic, building from ground up. But I think it's really important, and I will keep you posted on what they're doing, because I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Have they started the physical renovation of the space yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I did talk to Deb English about some of their plans, but it's still all in a developmental phase. But there is going to be an office on the second floor, as far as I know, for the museum and Gene Howard Green, which I think is desperately needed.
Agreed.
Okay. And wait, there was one other, and as Mrs. Seller says, Gettysburg Loves Love is coming up. It's going to be on February 15th, and it'll be the same as last year, but it's being developed by Destination Gettysburg, and once again, I'm working with it. It's a marriage vow renewal ceremony, and I got Christmas cards from some of the people I renewed their vows. They keep in touch.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. Any other elected officials' comments?
I do have a couple. Kudos to Gene Green at the Gingerbread Festival at the Arts Council. Gene did a gingerbread house of the Johns Hopkins house and had that on display, along with information of the importance of that gentleman to the history of Gettysburg and of the plans for the house. But it was also a beautifully done little gingerbread product, so we thank her. I will, again, at a future meeting, bring up the topic of changing our time of these meetings. I understand the complications that might cause, but I would like to hear more from the staff when we bring that up, of their comments of having an earlier meeting right after their workday, as opposed to having a period of hanging around waiting for us to start. And as Charles mentioned, the 250th meetings have begun or will begin for the county. The times of the events happening there, the meeting is at 3. The free movie and or free tour are either at 2 or 4. So if you come at 3, you're not going to get the free movie or that. So just a little motion there.
All right. Anyone else?
Yes. I wanted to give a shout out to Gettysburg College, Office of Diversity and Inclusion, YMCA of Hanover at Gettysburg, Public Policy Department, the Center for Public Service and Conversations for Change, College Life, all on Gettysburg College campus, are having some really great things coming up, celebrating the living legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Monday, January 20th, the Gettysburg and the Civil Rights Era. at 1 o'clock in the Mara Auditorium. The 43rd Annual Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration, quote, Our Beloved Community, 6:30 to 7:30 in Christ Chapel on campus. It's open to all with College Chaplain Bright. And that, again, is on Monday, January 20th. On Sunday, January 26th, a community film viewing, Selma, will be 3 p.m. at the Gettysburg College's Majestic Theater. And on Friday, January 31st, Finishing the Unfinished Work, Social Justice from the Civil War to Today, 5 p.m. in the College Union Ballroom. There's some great things happening over there, and I always want to make sure we bring that to our attention.
Thank you. Any other elected officials' comments? All right. That takes us to our second public comment section of the evening. This one is not restricted to items on the agenda. We do ask you to use the podium. Please state your name and address of residence, and please limit your comment to 5 minutes. Is there any public comment? All right.